Your supermarket just pulled 400 products off the shelf in a single week, and you probably didn't even notice. Right now, as you're watching this, there's a product in your fridge that might be on a recall list. Last year, 3 simple mistakes contaminated 424 different products across every major UK supermarket. We're not talking about expired milk or bruised apples. We're talking about products with hidden allergens that could kill someone, bacteria that can hospitalise you, and metal fragments that can choke a child. And here's the part that'll really get you. Up to half of these recalls never needed to happen in the first place. I spent weeks digging through Food Standards Agency reports, industry data, and recall bulletins to find out what's actually going wrong. What I discovered will change the way you shop forever. The allergen labelling crisis. Let's start with the absolute biggest culprit, and this one is genuinely putting lives at risk. Every single day, allergen mislabeling is the #1 cause of recalls in the UK, and it's not even close. We're talking about 23 to 35% of all food alerts coming from this single issue. And when I say #1, I mean it's been sitting at the top of that list for years now, refusing to budge despite all the attention and all the regulations. Here's how this disaster unfolds in real life. You walk into your local Tesco or Sainsbury's, you pick up a product that clearly says it's dairy-free or nut-free on the label, and you trust that information because why wouldn't you? That label is supposed to be accurate, it's supposed to protect you, but that label is lying to you. Not intentionally in most cases, but the result is exactly the same. Someone with a severe allergy eats it, thinking they're completely safe, and ends up in the hospital fighting for their life. Or worse, they don't make it to the hospital in time. The Food Standards Agency conducted research that revealed something absolutely terrifying. Over half of consumers buying food for someone with an allergy to products of animal origin, like milk or egg, actually use the word vegan to guide their purchase decision. On the surface, that sounds perfectly reasonable, right? If something is vegan, it shouldn't contain milk or eggs, except here's where it gets dangerous. Testing laboratories in Hampshire and Kent ran checks on products labelled as vegan, and they found vegan curry containing undeclared milk, vegan pizza containing undeclared milk, vegan cake containing undeclared milk. These weren't isolated incidents. They were finding this pattern repeatedly. People were buying these products specifically because they trusted that vegan label, and that trust was being violated. Let me break down the numbers for you so you understand the scale. Milk is the most frequently undeclared allergen in the UK, making up about 26% of all allergen-related recalls. That's more than 1 in every 4 allergen recalls involving milk that someone didn't know was there. Gluten comes in second at 13% of allergen recalls, and tree nuts take third place at 11.5%. These aren't rare allergens, these are some of the most common and most dangerous ones. The Trading Standards Institute got so concerned about this problem that they're now actively calling for a legal definition of what vegan and plant-based actually mean in the UK, because right now the terms are so loosely used that they're creating genuine confusion that's putting lives at risk. And it gets worse when you look at which products are the worst offenders. Baked goods represent almost 19% of allergen-related recalls. Think about that. Nearly 1 in 5 products recalled for allergen issues is something from the bakery section. Ready-to-eat meals come in at 11% of allergen recalls, and confectionery sits at almost 11% as well. These are everyday items that millions of people buy every single week. Waitrose had to recall their #1 pesto alla genovese because of undeclared allergens. Aldi recalled perfect Christmas mozzarella sticks in blankets because they contained undeclared egg. Vault City Brewing had to pull their mince pie pastry sour beer because of undeclared milk. Grapetree recalled their Easy Melt Couverture dark chocolate for undeclared milk and their caramel flavour-coated raisins for undeclared peanuts. This is happening across every single supermarket chain, across every product category, at an alarming rate. This isn't just about labels being unclear or slightly misleading, this is about people not making it home from the supermarket safely. This is about parents losing children. This is about people going into anaphylactic shock in their own kitchens because they trusted a label that was completely wrong. The invincible bacterial threat. The second major problem stalking UK supermarkets is one you absolutely cannot see, smell, or taste until it's too late. Bacterial contamination, and this one keeps making national headlines for good reason. We're talking about Listeria, Salmonella, and E. coli, and these aren't just scary scientific names designed to frighten you. They're serious, dangerous pathogens that are genuinely infiltrating UK food supplies at rates that should alarm every single person watching this. Listeria monocytogenes came in second place for recall causes in 2024, and in many regions globally, Salmonella has actually been overtaking Listeria as the leading microbial threat to food safety. These bacteria can you, and they're particularly vicious to certain vulnerable groups. Remember the massive E. coli outbreak that ripped through the UK? This wasn't some minor incident that affected a handful of people. Over 200 confirmed cases were reported to health officials, with that number expected to climb even higher in the following weeks. The UK Health Security Agency investigated and determined that all these cases were part of one single linked outbreak, likely caused by a contaminated food product or products that had been distributed nationally. Because of the wide geographic spread of cases, spanning from Scotland down to southern England, the agency concluded that this outbreak had to stem from items available in major supermarket chains, products that were everywhere. On June 14th, several major food companies took immediate action and initiated the first wave of recalls. Greencore Group, one of the UK's largest sandwich manufacturers, recalled sandwiches, wraps and salads that were being sold at Sainsbury's, Asda, Aldi, Morrison's, Co-op and Boots pharmacies. Think about how many people shop at those retailers every single day. Think about how many people bought those exact products in the days and weeks before the recall was announced. The contamination had spread throughout the entire supply chain before anyone even realised there was a problem. But E. coli wasn't the only bacterial villain in this story. Lidl had to extend their recall of cheese products that were contaminated with Listeria monocytogenes. Spar pulled corned beef from shelves in September 2024 due to serious concerns over bacterial contamination. Listeria poses absolutely massive health risks, and in certain cases, particularly for pregnant women, elderly people, and those with weakened immune systems, it can be fatal. Here's what makes bacterial contamination so insidious and so difficult to control. Many of these recalled products are ready-to-eat items, convenience foods designed to be consumed straight from the package. Sandwiches, pre-made salads, cheese that you slice and eat. These products skip any further cooking process that would normally kill harmful bacteria. There's no heat treatment after you buy them. There's no kill step between the factory and your mouth. If bacteria are present when the product is packaged, they're still present when you eat it. And if storage temperatures aren't maintained perfectly throughout the entire distribution chain, from factory to lorry to warehouse to shop to your fridge, those bacteria can multiply exponentially. Processed meats are especially vulnerable to bacterial contamination because of the way they're manufactured. The meat gets handled multiple times, exposed to equipment, to workers' hands, to processing environments where bacteria might be present. With the chilled distribution chains that these products rely on, one single refrigeration failure, one lorry that's slightly too warm, or one warehouse with a faulty cooling system, and you've created the perfect breeding ground for these microbes to multiply and spread. That's when a small contamination problem becomes a public health crisis. Metal and plastic contamination. The third major issue is tied for third place with non-allergen labelling errors. Foreign body contamination, and we're talking about pieces of metal, plastic fragments, and glass finding their way into food products. Tesco recalled chicken and vegetable cup soup because it contains small pieces of metal. Baxter's Food Group recalled Frey Bentos Just Chicken Pies for the same reason. Greggs pulled frozen chicken bakes sold in Iceland because packs contained pieces of hard plastic. Metal fragments are particularly dangerous because of the physical injuries they cause. Broken teeth, cut mouths and throats, and if swallowed, potential internal damage requiring emergency surgery. Plastic contamination presents choking hazards, especially for children. These contaminants enter production lines through equipment malfunction or breakage, inadequate cleaning between runs, or failures in detection systems. Metal detectors and X-ray systems should scan every product before packaging. When these aren't properly maintained or aren't there at all, contaminated products sail right through. The fact that metal contamination is tied for third place tells you quality control systems are failing at an alarming rate. These technologies are highly effective when used correctly. Someone decided that cutting corners on equipment maintenance or skipping detection systems was acceptable. The human error epidemic. Manual labelling errors and plain old human mistakes plague the UK food industry. Picture this scenario because it happens every single day. In high-speed production environments, workers are selecting labels from big boxes containing dozens of similar-looking designs. Packaging for different variants now looks almost identical. A regular version, low-fat version, gluten-free version, and vegan version might have the same background color, same logo, same design. The only difference might be a small badge or different colored stripe. In a fast-paced factory with quick changeovers, it's incredibly easy to grab the wrong label. A product with nuts gets labeled as nut-free. A product with dairy gets labeled as vegan. The consequences can be fatal. Simple spelling mistakes make allergen warnings unreadable. Labels placed on the wrong side mean allergen information ends up on the bottom where no one sees it. Incorrect translations create situations where ready-to-cook seafood gets mistranslated as ready-to-eat, meaning people consume raw fish thinking it's been cooked. Date codes represent another huge category of error. Workers miscalculate and enter the wrong date, or dates get changed during setup and no one catches the error. That entire batch now has the wrong best before date. What makes this worse is that many facilities still rely on manual checks instead of automated systems. People get tired, lose concentration, and make mistakes. The solution exists with barcode scanning and automated verification, but not every facility has invested in these technologies. The dangerous automation gap. The lack of automated vision. Inspection systems represents a massive gap in the UK food industry. Daniela Verhaeg from Metla Toledo Product Inspection explained that some manufacturers still don't have integrated vision inspection systems at final packaging stages to verify labels accurately. Instead, they rely on manual checks, which inevitably lead to human error. This technology isn't new or experimental. It's been commercially available for over a decade. These systems use high-resolution cameras and software to automatically verify correct labels are on correct packages, check required information including allergen warnings is present and legible, confirm dates are acceptable, verify barcodes are scannable, and flag discrepancies immediately before products ship. These systems inspect hundreds of products per minute with accuracy no human could match. They don't get tired, don't lose concentration, don't mix up labels. Why aren't these systems everywhere? Cost is obviously significant. There's also resistance to change, lack of technical expertise, and a dangerous assumption that manual processes are good enough. The data proves they're not. When 27% of recalls in 2024 were preventable, never events. That's evidence current systems aren't working. Without this technology industry-wide, manufacturers are gambling with consumer safety every single time. The broken supply chain problem. Complex supply chains and poor supplier communication represent a huge problem. The modern food supply chain is incredibly complicated. Ingredients come from multiple suppliers scattered globally. Your sandwich might contain lettuce from Spain, chicken from Thailand, bread with wheat from Canada, and mayonnaise with eggs from Poland. Each ingredient passes through multiple handlers before coming together in a UK facility. When suppliers don't follow strict protocols, the entire batch gets compromised. There are significant barriers to sharing technical information across supply chains. Companies worry about commercial confidentiality, so they don't share full details about ingredients, processing methods, or contamination risks. They provide only minimum information required by regulations, which often isn't enough for comprehensive safety assessments. Supply chain actors have wildly different levels of food technology education and safety knowledge. A small farm supplier might have minimal understanding of allergen cross-contamination risks. This makes effective communication harder. Technical language gets lost, safety concerns aren't communicated clearly, and dangerous assumptions get made. End users can't carry out sufficiently in-depth compliance assessments for their intended final use of ingredients. They're working partially blind, trusting suppliers are following proper protocols but not having full visibility. The massive mustard recall in 2024 stemmed from cross-contamination during harvesting or processing, where peanut contamination got into mustard ingredients. Kirsty Henshaw from Kirsty's pointed out minimal technical intelligence is shared between supply chain parties, preventing proper safety assessments. When recipe changes happen or suppliers switch, that information doesn't get communicated clearly. A supplier might reformulate an ingredient, adding a processing aid containing allergens. If they don't explicitly communicate that change, the manufacturer has no idea the allergen profile changed. Labels don't get updated, specifications stay the same, but products now contain undeclared allergens. Before we continue, if you're finding this information eye-opening, do me a favor and hit that like button right now. It helps more people discover what's really happening with their food. And make sure you're subscribed, because next week, I'm naming the specific supermarkets with the worst recall records. You'll want to see that? Right, let's keep going. Here's what most people don't realize. When you see a recall notice at your local supermarket, that's not just one product being pulled. The Food Standards Agency dealt with over 2,000 food-related incidents in just one financial year. That's more than 5 incidents every single day. And whilst the total number of alerts stayed relatively low in 2024, each individual recall now affects way more products than before. Just 3 alerts last year involved 424 different products. Think about that for a second. 3 mistakes, 424 products that could have ended up in your shopping trolley, in your kitchen, in your children's lunchboxes. The reasons behind these recalls aren't random. They're not just bad luck, and they're definitely not being talked about enough. Let's proceed, because there are more shocking things. The Brexit workforce collapse. Brexit-related labour shortages are hitting the UK food industry incredibly hard. The UK has lost approximately 15,000 to 19,000 EU drivers from the haulage industry due to increased immigration restrictions and pandemic-related movement restrictions. That's a workforce 15.6% smaller than pre-pandemic. Data shows a decrease of about 30,000 drivers between 2019 and 2021 alone, roughly 10% of the entire workforce disappearing. But the driver shortage is just the tip. The crisis extends throughout food production. Butchers, meat processors, abattoir workers, veterinarians, warehouse staff, food packers, all experiencing significant shortages. These are skilled positions requiring training and experience. Butchers need up to 3 years of training to be fully qualified. UK-trained veterinarians prefer working with pets rather than in meat processing facilities. Post-Brexit immigration changes made recruiting EU veterinarians much harder, so facilities now recruit from non-EU countries, increasing administrative burden with visa sponsorships and qualification recognition. Farming faces similar challenges. Less than 5% of UK citizens surveyed would consider working on a dairy farm. Labour shortages directly impact food safety. Overworked staff make more mistakes. Quality control checks get skipped when there aren't enough inspectors. Production processes get rushed without adequate oversight. Transport delays lead to temperature control failures and microbial growth. Less thorough inspection means problems aren't caught until products are in distribution. The Food Standards Agency's research makes clear these shortages create increased risks of physical, chemical, allergenic, and cross-contamination issues. When you don't have enough skilled workers, food safety standards slip. The recipe change. Cover up. Recipe changes without updated labels are classified as never events, recalls that should never happen because they're entirely preventable, yet they keep happening. A manufacturer changes a recipe to reduce costs or because a supplier changed. That new recipe now contains ingredients that weren't there before. Perhaps they switched to different oil containing allergens, added different preservatives, or substituted ingredients with gluten, dairy, or nuts. But nobody updates the label. The product goes to market with old packaging that doesn't declare new allergens. Imagine you're a consumer with a severe nut allergy. You've bought this product for years because it's always been safe and never contained nuts. You trust this product. You bring it home, eat it, and suddenly you're having an allergic reaction because the recipe changed but the label didn't. These never events historically accounted for 40 to 50% of all UK recalls. Whilst that dropped to 27% in 2024, it still means over a quarter of recalls are entirely avoidable. The root cause is usually a communication breakdown between teams. Product development approves the recipe change, but that information doesn't make it to production clearly, or it makes it to production but not to packaging, or new labels get printed, but old labels don't get pulled from storage. This requires robust processes with multiple checkpoints, ensuring any recipe change triggers immediate label update review. It requires old packaging materials get physically destroyed rather than left in storage where they could accidentally get used. These aren't complicated procedures, but they require discipline and genuine commitment to food safety. The cross-contamination nightmare. Cross-contamination during production is particularly problematic in facilities processing multiple products on the same lines. One production line makes a nut-free product marketed to people with nut allergies. That batch finishes, then the facility switches to making a product containing nuts. If equipment, conveyor belts, mixing bowls, packaging machinery, and work surfaces aren't cleaned thoroughly, between runs, microscopic traces of nuts remain. When the supposedly nut-free batch runs next, those traces contaminate what should be safe. This happens through multiple pathways. Shared equipment is an obvious source. Inadequate cleaning protocols are the real culprit. Companies develop cleaning procedures that look good on paper, but don't actually remove all allergen traces in practice. Workers rush through cleaning to minimize downtime, or aren't properly trained, or cleaning agents aren't effective enough. Some allergens are incredibly sticky and resistant to standard cleaning. Airborne particles represent another pathway many facilities don't adequately control. In facilities where peanuts are processed, peanut dust becomes airborne, traveling throughout the facility, settling on surfaces and products supposed to be peanut-free. Without proper air handling systems and barriers, you can't prevent this cross-contamination even with perfect equipment cleaning. The mustard and peanut incident from 2024 is a perfect example. Peanuts contaminated mustard ingredients during harvesting or processing. Because contamination wasn't detected through testing, those mustard ingredients went into hundreds of products manufactured by dozens of companies and sold across all major supermarkets. The Food Standards Agency issued warnings telling anyone with peanut allergy not to eat any products containing mustard ingredients. That recall affected products with best before dates from October 2024 through March 2025. Cross-contamination risks increase when facilities maximize efficiency by running multiple products on shared lines. This makes financial sense but creates serious safety challenges. Proper allergen management requires dedicated production lines for high-risk allergens, rigorous validated cleaning, clear physical separation of allergen-containing ingredients in storage, protective clothing changes between productions, and comprehensive risk assessments for every product and changeover. Many facilities aren't implementing all these controls effectively. Poor quality control. Finally, inadequate quality control systems and rushed production processes to prioritize speed and cost over safety. When companies face pressure to meet tight deadlines, reduce costs, and maximize output, quality control measures get squeezed. Fewer inspectors check more products, and things get missed. Rushed changeovers mean equipment doesn't get cleaned thoroughly. Pressure to ship orders means products go out without comprehensive testing. The UK food industry operates in a challenging economic environment. Rising energy costs, increased raw material prices, higher labour costs, and fierce competition squeeze profit margins. Some manufacturers cut corners, whether intentionally as cost-saving or through poor prioritisation. Quality control requires investment in people, technology, time, and robust processes. Proper quality control requires laboratory testing capacity to verify ingredient safety, implementing hazard analysis and critical control point systems throughout production, maintaining comprehensive traceability from raw materials through finished goods, conducting regular audits of suppliers and internal processes, and having courage to stop production and investigate when something doesn't look right, even when stopping means missing deadlines. Too many facilities are reactive rather than proactive. They wait for problems to occur, then scramble to respond rather than investing in prevention. They implement changes after a recall happens rather than making investments proactively. Financial costs of recalls are enormous, including direct costs of retrieving and destroying products, loss of consumer trust, potential legal liability, and regulatory scrutiny. Yet some companies still treat food safety as a cost center to minimize rather than a core business priority. Until that mindset changes, we'll keep seeing these preventable recalls. So what can you actually do? First, stay informed. The Food Standards Agency website maintains a complete list of current recalls. Subscribe to their notification system. Check alerts regularly, especially if you or someone in your household has allergies. Second, be extra cautious with highest risk categories. Ready-to-eat products, prepared meals, sandwiches, confectionery, and anything with complex ingredient lists have the highest recall rates. Third, if you have serious allergies, reach out directly to manufacturers before trying new products. Many companies now have allergen helplines where you can verify exactly what's in products, how they prevent cross-contamination, and their safety procedures. Don't rely solely on labels. Fourth, support supermarkets and brands that take food safety seriously. Companies like Kirsty's have won awards for integrity because they invest heavily in quality control and allergen management. Research brands before buying, vote with your wallet. Finally, report any issues. If you find a foreign object in food, if a product makes you ill, if a label seems incorrect, report it to both the retailer and your local environmental health department. These reports help identify problems before they escalate. The good news is awareness is growing. The percentage of never events has been decreasing, meaning some manufacturers are investing in better systems. Technology exists to solve most problems, from automated vision inspection to sophisticated traceability software. As consumers demand higher standards and regulators increase enforcement, we should see continued improvement. But you need to stay vigilant. Have you been affected by a food recall? Drop a comment below and let me know which supermarket and what happened. This genuinely matters, and the more we talk about it, the more pressure there is on the industry to fix these problems properly. If you found this useful, share it with whoever does the shopping in your family. They need to know what's really happening. And if you want more videos breaking down what's really going on with the food you buy, hit that subscribe button right now. Next video, I'm naming which specific UK supermarkets have the absolute worst track records for recalls. You definitely won't want to miss that one.